looks like a Republican, walks like a Republican from 30 years ago, goes wandering over into the Democratic Party?
No, I don't think so, because business elites are still going to be concerned about things like taxes, right? They're still going to be concerned about a lot of that stuff. And what I will say is that, looking at the stuff that Senator Hawley's putting out there, we're talking about things like keeping American jobs, right? That's very much something that it will be interesting to see how the business elite reacts to this. I do think that's fair because, yes, there's this interesting dynamic and push and play. And even notwithstanding everything I've said, right, what does that joint relationship look like when historically business and unions have been on opposite sides?
Yeah, so let's bring it back to Utah, Aaron. For our next segment, I was at the Economic Summit this morning with a lot of those business elites. Let's have a conversation about it. Stay with us.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer? Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. And now it's our lowest price of the season on our top-selling i8 smart bed. Your best savings plus special financing. Exclusively at a Sleep Number store near you. All Sleep Number smart beds offer temperature solutions for your best sleep. Learn more at sleepnumber.com.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
Boy, right after the holidays, everyone needs a little cash, right?
Oh, yes.
We have great news for you. Right now, UCCU, Utah Community Credit Union, will pay you for your auto loan and credit balances. So all you have to do is just transfer your auto loan or your credit card balance to UCCU. And on top of giving you a low interest rate, which will save you money, UCCU will give you 1% cash back up to $250 on every loan you transfer.
Amanda, as soon as I heard about this, I said, I'm in this exact situation. I actually had to have 2 loans to get my car a year ago. Yeah. Long story. Got it consolidated into one, and they paid me 1% back for each thing. I've got 1 payment now instead of 2. It's so much easier, and it took me basically an hour. I just went straight to the website. I applied. They said, you got to send me these documents. I did, and all of a sudden, within a couple of days, I had it all set.
This is how easy they are to work with, always looking for ways to help you and your family. You can find out more on the UCCU mobile banking app or just go to uccu.com/transfer. Utah Community Credit Union. You're going to love where you bank.
Hi, this is Doug Wright, and over the years, you've heard me praise the Connecticut soft water systems. You've heard that so often, you might be tempted to chuck a shoe at your radio. Well, hang on, because I've got some great news. Get this, Connecticut will pay you $50. I'm not kidding on this. They'll pay you $50 to buy a competing water softener from another dealer. Ready for the rules, though? Well, they're pretty simple. Invite Connecticut of Utah to your home for a free estimate on a Connecticut water softener. If within 60 days of hearing them out, you buy any other system from any other water softener dealer, Connecticut of Utah will fork over $50. That's how sure they are that after hearing them out, you won't settle for anything less than a Connecticut water softener. Now, this offer does expire in 30 days, so don't delay. Call Northern Utah's authorized Connecticut dealer, Connecticut Quality Water Systems of Salt Lake, 801-576-8600, or log on to softwaterutah.com. That's softwaterutah.com. Tell them Doug sent you.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. This is Aaron Ryder here with Leah Murray. Leah, you had some fun picking on me in the last segment, but we are going to turn the tables, and it is my turn to pick on you a little bit. Okay, what does Utah's economic outlook look like for 2025, and how might public policy influence it? Now, this morning, Leah got some answers and ideas when she attended the Utah Economic Outlook and Public Policy Summit hosted by the Salt Lake Chamber and the Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute. Tell us what your biggest takeaway was from this summit and why.
So my biggest takeaway is that you really should write down when you get out of the in the parking garage at the Grand America where your car is. Because Aaron, as I came out of that summit, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm on parking level 1 or parking level 2. And that I had to find someone who worked at the hotel. And I literally said to him, I drove in and did this. Where do you think that got me? And he's like, I think you're here. So my hot take from the Grand America Hotel is make sure you say where you're parked as you're walking in, or like take a picture of it. But that's not what you were actually asking.
No, although we'll come back to that when we talk about public transportation.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
I should have maybe flown in somehow, right? Like,
Yeah.
All right. What I thought was really cool is, one, that all of the people who kind of work in the economic ecosystem that is Utah, we're all in one place learning from each other. So my hot take on it was, sometimes I think we feel that, and we talked about this in the last segment, that they're elite out there and they're just kind of doing things that are in their own interests. And going back a couple of segments, like maybe it's just about TikTok and they're trying to do their own thing. And I don't mean to pull TikTok thread through, but the answer is, in Utah, all these local business leaders really care. Right? So they're having a conversation. What are the most important issues? How do all of their different industries bring whatever is their, sphere of influence, if you will, to bear to make sure that, right, this thing we call Utah, this fabulousness that is Utah, keeps going? They kept talking about all of them, children and grandchildren, right? And making sure that when whatever it is we're doing now that is working, right, that will be here for the next generation and the next generation. So my hot take was, that there's some method to it. Does that, you know what I mean? Like that they were working on these issues together. And my favorite part was Sophia DeCaro gets up there and she's talking about, remember 10 years ago, and these were our goals. And look, we actually met all theirs, right? Like, so kind of where we were 10 years ago and where we are today. And we've actually seen progress. So when we say things that we're saying today, which quite frankly, one of the things they were talking about terrifies me because I think they're going to achieve it, right? That we're going to have it in 10 years and we'll be back in this space talking about it. I loved that kind of reflective moment of the business community.
Interesting. So tell us some of the topics that they covered, because it sounds like they went all over the place, all sorts of different economic topics that affect the state, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think what's interesting is they were addressing what were the most important issues. My favorite panel, of course, was the one that had Speaker Schultz, Minority Leader Romero, had Senate President Adams, had Kirk Cullimore, Karen Lisenby, so like a panel of legislators. And you know me, I'm like writing down, what are they going to say? Like, what's the most important thing? What are they going to do this session? Because the session's starting. And my goodness, we're looking for what we're going to talk about, right, all the time. But also I'm interested in what they're doing. And so that was fun. I will tell you the number one thing they all talked about a lot was energy production. So for example, let me just kind of tie this for you. If you're going to have artificial intelligence, so a lot of conversation about AI and how we care about AI and what that's going to look like, but you actually need a lot of energy to run the servers that make the AI possible, right?
Yep. You need a ton.
Yeah, and so the answer is sometimes you and I are riffing about TikTok, right? Or you and I are riffing about AI, but underneath that is the energy demands on a grid that now has 3-some million people, which is about 1 million more than when I got here 22 years ago. And we are all looking for the energy to do that work. Right? So I was sitting there thinking, oh, yeah, all of these industries actually interconnect, which when you say out loud sounds really stupid. But I think sometimes, because clearly they do.
Yeah.
But I don't know that we're always thinking that if we had a nuclear power plant, how that would affect the use of AI. That might also affect how we do transportation, right? You know.
Well, and there are other things too. For example, when I was running for county mayor, Salt Lake County mayor, one of the things that came up was the NSA data center. And what I didn't realize is that, the servers with the data center are massive. There's so much data flowing through there. And because of that, they actually need quite a bit of water to keep those things cool. And so when we're talking about water in Utah, that's another component here where It's a resource. It's a finite resource in Utah, and we have these big tech entities that are here needing some of our finite resource to just run their facility. So yeah, lots of interplay between these two.
Yeah, and it was interesting because I will tell you that, what was it, 2 years ago? You tell me, Aaron, if I'm wrong, was the year of water, right? Like we were all talking about water all the time. And it was a really interesting conversation today with Speaker Schultz saying in 1960 whatever was a low mark for the Great Salt Lake. In 1980 whatever, it was flooding. And so then we put in like pumps or, pipes to get the water out of the Great Salt Lake. And that the attitude from that 1985 policy experience, he said, was something like, if water's getting to the Salt Lake, then it's wasted water because it was just flooding. And a little bit, I love that conversation from the speaker because he's saying issues are dynamic.
Yeah.
Right, always.
And
they change. And so water, now we cannot talk about it as water is wasted. Mm-hmm. We have got to talk about we need water in the Great Salt Lake.
And we need a lake effect from the Great Salt Lake.
That is right.
We need a lake.
Totally right. And if it is 20 years from now that it's flooding, then maybe we talk about, but being thoughtful about addressing those problems head on when they arrive, right? Mm-hmm. I also like President Stuart Adams was saying, in Utah, we see a problem and we fix it. And I loved that, too, that kind of attitude of, because I do think sometimes the narrative in this state is state legislators don't care, right? Or they're not paying attention. And when you were listening to these people, they clearly had their fingers on 25, so someone would bring up this issue and all of them were like, oh, yeah, blah, 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 right? They could talk about, like you just did when you were running an office, that these elected officials really have their fingers on how the interplay, right? How these different industries kind of work with each other. That was interesting.
Now, one of the things I want to ask you about, I know that Representative Lisenby, Carrie Ann Lisenby, mentioned something about on-site childcare for businesses. Tell us about this, because this to me feels very, kind of going back to our labor discussion, right? This feels very not Republican.
Right. So the conversation is about making sure, how do we say, the workforce has what it needs to be a viable workforce. So I want to be clear, it was a really long conversation about what does education look like, what does, can we move people in the transportation corridors where they need to be? You know what I mean? How do we get our workforce where they need to be so that businesses can thrive and people can have good jobs? And, one of the questions was about having childcare. So the conversation was, so you put in everyone's going to get money, right, to be able to pay for childcare, which then kind of artificially inflates the market. And now you price out everybody who's got children in childcare. And then the conversation was, so how do you address that problem, right? And so Representative Lisenby was talking about, what if we loosened up regulations? So I'll tell you the very specific example she gave. To have a child care site in this state, you need to have a full kitchen. So she was like, what if the regulation said you could have a warming kitchen? So why is it that you have to have a full kitchen on site to be able to be licensed as a child care setting? And then she said, and what if we had businesses, if we could open up some regulations so that a business could say, we're going to have an on-site child care, right, which just helps the workforce get to work, to be able to do the work, that they know their children are safe. So I don't know that that's anti-Republican, considering what you told me in the last segment, right? Which is basically supporting families.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think that's true. And I think that it's also a recognition of the fact that most families now are two-income earners, right? And so childcare is something we have to talk about, particularly in an environment where housing is so expensive. I actually really appreciate that they had that conversation. All right, last thing I want to ask you about in the last minute we have here. Public transit. I know that they said the use of the Olympics are coming. They want to have better public transit options. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the Olympics, and I actually really love this whole conversation. So if you've got the Olympics coming, that's a disruptive moment, right? Although it felt like they like to be disruptive, right? So if you're going to be dynamic and meet challenges as they come, that means you are always kind of adapting. So the answer is the Olympics are coming. We need to revamp our public transit to make sure it is equal to the challenge. Okay. But the thing that made me go, what? And I was texting you earlier while I was sitting there, is this idea of air taxis, which I thought, I'm sorry, what? So people are going to get into I'm not sure, a helicopter, and then it's going to be flown up to the top of the mountain. And the whole time, you can hear it in my voice, was me saying, what? No. This can't possibly be a great idea. And people around me are like, oh, it's going to be the Jetsons. This will be fabulous. And I'm thinking, oh, no, I'm a little nervous about this. But, Aaron, you had heard that this was a plan.
Yep, vertiports, public transport by drone. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on with this that we're going to get into.
And you're not terrified. You think that's a great idea.
You know, I'm learning about it, but I think it's interesting.
You're more open than I am.
All right. Well, you know, coming up in the second hour of Inside Sources, we're going to share some thoughts on a new class action lawsuit against Vail Resorts, plus a few discussions on nonpartisanship and free speech. We'll be right back.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon. It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Maria Chaleos. KSL's top national story. We're learning more about the destruction caused by the wildfires raging in Southern California.
Thousands of homes have been destroyed. And we continue to hear the numbers change, but know that this is going to be a long-term recovery for all of these individuals that have been impacted.
That is FEMA Administrator Dan Criswell. Winds have died down today in Los Angeles, but are expected to pick up in a couple of days. Some local nonprofits are working to bring hundreds of dogs and cats currently living in shelters near the wildfires in Los Angeles to foster homes here in Utah. Beth Sanders of the Community Animal Welfare Society says most of these pets will stay in foster homes, which is an upgrade from their shelter lifestyle, but they need more people willing to foster them so that they can get help and help other animals.
Foster homes are so needed because no matter how many animals we pull and bring up to Utah, there's going to be thousands more that still need help that we can't help.
She says doing this will help clear out space for any lost animals found near the wildfires and increases the chances they will be reunited with their owners. The Dow ending the week on a negative note. The Dow down nearly 700 points to end at 41,938. S&P down by 91. The NASDAQ down 317 points. A change coming in the forecast. We'll check your weather coming up next. KSL News Time 2:01.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million+ products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Thinking about gas mileage? You know, changing your oil with a full synthetic oil like Mobil 1 can help your engine get more miles. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP Extended Life oil filter for only $38.99. Get started on your next job today with the parts you need when you need them at AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
If you're trying to decide which gutter protection to put on your home, don't just ask how they'll handle leaves. Ask how they'll handle ice. Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors, and that's right, ice. See, plenty of gutter guards are good at keeping out leaves, but most are made with flimsy materials that can bend, buckle, and break under the weight of too much ice. Kind of a big problem in an icy state like Utah, right? At RGS Exteriors, our exclusive gutter protection systems are built Utah tough. They're made with premium strength materials that hold up to 1,200 pounds of ice per square foot. Simply put, they're not going to budge. Our gutter guards are also certified to handle hurricane-level winds and rain. Mother Nature can't damage them. Guaranteed. Utah Tough Products. That's the RGS way. For a free estimate, call 801-280-3110 or visit rgsexteriors.com. That's rgsexteriors.com or 801-280-3110.
Did you know 96% of Americans lose an average of $111,000 in Social Security income. And it's because they claim their benefits at the wrong time. Don't lose $111,000 in Social Security income that's rightfully yours. Learn how you could wring every nickel out of your benefits on Retirement Solutions Radio this Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock, right here on KSL, News Radio 1027.
Imagine a currency that has true value, a currency that's local, protects your wealth, and resists inflation. Now imagine that currency is anchored to the stability of gold. Introducing Goldbacks, a currency made of 24-karat gold, accepted at over 800 businesses in Utah. Don't just imagine it. Visit alpinegold.com to start spending in gold. Use promo code RADIO to get free shipping on orders of over $200 or more.
Traffic and weather together. It's brought to you by My Style Checking from Mountain America Credit Union. And here's Ricky Meese.
Light traffic volumes, no problems on the Valley freeways. It's kind of a quiet drive along the Wasatch Front, and that's on our freeways, main secondaries, and side streets. Murdoch Auto Team is celebrating 100 years of winter journeys at Murdoch Hyundai. Right now, receive 1.99% for 4 years or 2.49% for 5 years on the 2025 Santa Fe or Tucson. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
We are looking at a wet Saturday, 60% chance of showers, decreasing to a 20% chance on Sunday. Right now, 39 degrees. I'm Maria Chaleos from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
A class action lawsuit has been filed against Vail Resorts over its handling of the recent ski patrol strike and its effects on visitors to Park City Mountain Ski Resort. The lawsuit alleges that Vail Resorts, quote, intentionally and willfully deceived hundreds of thousands of consumers when it failed to disclose that the Ski Patrol and Mountain Safety Personnel Union were on strike during the Christmas and New Year's holidays, end quote. You're here with me, Leah Murray, alongside Erin Ryder, and luckily she's a lawyer, so I'm going to ask her, talk to me about... what is a class action lawsuit? Like, what does that mean? Does that there are thousands of angry skiers who are now filing this suit? Like, what does this mean?
Yeah, so I mean, a class action lawsuit, explained very simply, is that it's a lawsuit where you're combining plaintiffs, right? So it's usually one where it makes more sense for them to come together and file the lawsuit than it is for them to each file their own lawsuits separately. And usually have someone file on behalf of the class, but the class has to be essentially the same. It has to be the same kind of case, right? We all have the same complaint, the same issue. We're all seeking a similar remedy. And so we're just going to do it all together instead of doing it separately.
Erin, are you a skier?
I am a skier.
Do you ski Park City?
I do.
Okay, so I want to be clear.
I feel very strongly about
Yeah,
this.
I hear it. I could see your energy, so let's get into it. I'm from up north. We ski Snow Basin, right? So a little bit, we're happy and just we're just happy, right? So this is not in my personal drama of skiing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But maybe for you it has been. So talk to me about what is it about, like, does it make sense to you? Are you part of that class, right? So the person who is suing Vail Resorts on behalf of all skiers, are you angry enough that this makes sense to you?
Well, I don't know that I would fall into the class. So I mean,
Okay.
I have a season pass, an Epic pass, and this lawsuit is more about. It was filed by a gentleman who came here on his ski vacation. I think he spent about $15,000 and said the vacation was basically ruined because Vail was not transparent. That's not necessarily me, right? Like, I haven't gone skiing yet because I've been waiting for the strike to end, but I will go skiing as soon as it's over. That's different than someone who came for their holiday vacation.
So the class are like visitors to our state who came to
Yeah, that's
ski.
what it looks like.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it's interesting to see this because Taylor Morgan and I were talking about this a few days ago on the show. And I'm going to pick on Taylor for a second, even though he's not here to defend himself. One of the things he said was, look, if you're coming here and spending $300 a day on a pass and thousands of dollars to travel, you know what you're getting into. So I just don't have a lot of sympathy for you when you get to the resort and there's not, a lot of stuff to ski. However, this lawsuit, I think for me, brought some new light to that, where what he's claiming is, look, we didn't know because Vail wasn't transparent. We had no idea what was going on. And we flew all the way to Utah, spent all this money on lodging, travel, ski passes, etc. And you intentionally misled us. Because for weeks, Vail was saying the mountain's not open because of lack of snow, because of wind and weather and all these different things. They even when there were posts acknowledging the strike, they would take them down very quickly, and then put something else up instead. So they were not transparent about what was going on. If you were local, if you were really paying attention to the talk in the ski world, you knew it was because of the strike. But if you were just kind of a ski tourist showing up for a family vacation, you may not have seen those channels. And if all you had to go on was Vail's website or Vail's own communications, then yeah, you might have come here expecting that there were weather issues that would clear up by the time you got here, not that there was an ongoing strike that was handicapping the entire mountain.
Right, that they had basically a labor shortage, right? They couldn't do the work.
Yeah.
So can you do for me, and maybe this would be hard, I'm trying to think. So I spend however many thousands of dollars to take my family to Disneyland. What's the equivalent? So that Disney had a strike of its princesses and didn't say when you were here. But I'm not trying to, like what would be an equivalent?
I'm sorry, a strike of its princesses just was a really great way to say that.
Right, but so you show up at Disney and the kids want to meet Cinderella, and Disney was supposed to have told me. I guess I'm trying to make a distinction. So not that I'm landing with Taylor, my goodness, but what if they came and there was no snow, right? Would you sue then? Probably not, because sometimes stuff happens. Maybe you go to Disney and Cinderella's just not on site that day. I'm not going to sue about that. So I'm just looking for, you feel more sympathy, and I'm wondering what's an equivalent case, right, that would make sense to people. So you're traveling somewhere. Disney said it's going to be a magical experience, and they lied to you.
Yeah, well, I guess, in a somewhat similar dynamic, if we're using Disney, if you get to Disney and all of the Disney employees are on strike, so they can't open any of the rides, and Disney is out there actively, publicly saying, hey, we've had heavy rains, we've had, weather, blah, 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 but otherwise things are great, and you show up and find out, oh, no, it's actually because Disney can't figure out how to work with its employees, and now I spent all this money to get here. I think that is a similar situation because, it's not just the families and the tourists that had to spend the money. It's also that once people found out what was going on, they started canceling their reservations. So then you have lodging companies who are now losing revenue because of the people who had come who were backing out of their reservations at the last minute, right? And then the other piece of this, I am not terribly pro-Vail, if you can't tell in this. I don't think Vail has been a great partner to Park City for a long time. I don't think that they've done great things for that resort, if I'm being totally honest. In the time, I grew up skiing there, so I watched the whole transition. But one of the other things that's interesting about this is that Vail knew this strike was coming. It sounds like the patrollers had been trying to get them to the table to negotiate for months. And as early as spring, summer of 2024, there were talks about this, but Vail wouldn't engage. And then the patrollers finally started to file labor disputes issues with the government. And even still, Vail wasn't really wanting to engage with them. So it was almost like as a last resort, the patrollers said, fine, then we're going to get your attention by striking over the holidays when we know it's going to hurt you.
So what I love about this, what you're saying, is it sounds like the strikers have support locally, right? But, because you all maybe are in the different class, right? Aaron, you're a class of people who've watched how Vail has managed this. I mean, I'm looking at the class action lawsuit. Vail's located in Delaware. A little bit is like that's a remote
Well, Vail's a
corporation.
massive company, right? I mean, they own Vail in Colorado. Like Park City is just one of the resorts that Vail owns.
Right. So do you think, and I'm sorry to put you right on the spot, is this a lawsuit that has traction? Does this, so you're not in this class, you were clear, so there's no conflict of interest and you are not their lawyer.
And I have not joined on to this in any way.
That's right,
like,
at all.
Yeah,
so
this has nothing
does
to do with me.
this have legs?
We'll see. I mean, they filed it, right? And usually you have to have at least enough clout to file in the first place. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with this. Well, the other thing with this is this was starting to gain national traction. And I think Vail was hoping that it would just sort of die and go away. It's not dying and going.
Right. There's a New York Times article,
Yeah.
right? So clearly
it
it's
was on the
national
Today Show.
news.
It's been a
Right.
whole big thing.
Right. All right. So let's come back to Utah. Let's preview a bill, Aaron, dealing with unlicensed drivers. For the record, I didn't even know that was a thing. So I thought to be a driver, you had to have a license. And we're going to discuss that's going to be coming up in the next legislative session. Stay with us.
The best parts of KSL News Radio are so easy to use in the car. Catch the biggest stories affecting Utah's communities throughout the morning. If you miss a newscast, the next one is just a few minutes away. Plus, we have traffic updates every 10 minutes on the 9s like clockwork. We try to make it easy for your commute, mornings and afternoons. Rely on KSL News Radio.
Do you have any idea how hard your heating system has to work when your old windows let the cold air seep in? Your energy bill is going through the roof. But there's an answer, and it comes from Advanced Window Products. For 38 years, they've been building state-of-the-art insulated windows and frames, and every one of them is built right here in Utah. So let me explain why it's cost-effective to call them for new windows right now. First, you'll see a significant drop in your energy bills, winter and summer, and right now, call Advanced Windows and you'll get $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. Triple-coated, argon-filled and sealed double-pane insulated glass that'll keep out the cold, and custom frames in any style, any color. Advanced Windows offers a 60-month, 0% interest payment plan, and they even offer a plan with no payment, no interest for 24 months. Plus, that $2,500 off right now. Call for a no-pressure consultation, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindows.com.
Hi, Susan. We haven't seen or heard from you.
Cold.
We would like to locate Joyce.
The mysteries that made podcast history
Cherie Warren disappeared.
are now together for free at KSLPodcasts.com.
I'm Dave Cawley, the host of Cold. Join me for Season 1, The Susan Powell Case Files, Season 2, Justice for Joyce, and Season 3, The Search for Cherie. Listen anytime for free at KSLPodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Once upon a time, two children stumbled upon a magical house made entirely of candy, but all was not as sweet as it seemed. Join us at Capitol Theater this January and journey into the enchanted world of Utah Opera's Hansel and Gretel, where gingerbread dreams meet high-stakes adventures. The stage will sparkle, the music will soar, and you'll relive the fairy tale you grew up with a twist. Tickets start at $21 and under 30 save 50%. Get yours at utahopera.org.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds. With that kind of money, you could go big time and switch to the expensive shampoo with amino acids. Sure, you don't know what those are or why you need them, but it sounds very impressive. And if you switch and save hundreds, you can massage it into your scalp every day. Now, if only you can get people to lean toward your head to smell those aminos. Switch to Progressive and you could save big time. For shampoo. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states. Potential savings will vary.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Thinking about gas mileage? You know, changing your oil with a full synthetic oil like Mobil 1 can help your engine get more miles. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP Extended Life oil filter for only $38.99. Get started on your next job today with the parts you need when you need them at AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down, get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad Pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
This is Derek Overstreet of the New Millennium Group and host of Stop Working and Start Living Radio. If you're close to or in retirement and you don't have a tax plan, call us right now, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. Listen, our country's been spending like never before, and the tax bill is coming soon. If you need an income tax strategy and a financial plan that will get you through the rest of your life, give my team a call, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. If you want an investment plan that allows you to keep more of your gains and pay less taxes, give us a call, 888-999-6370. My team specializes in the type of plan that will get you retired 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible. So, get a no-cost tax analysis by calling 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. My team is standing by now.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
We're just over 1 week away from the start of the 2025 Legislative General Session, and we are continuing our preview of bills that you should know about. This is Erin Ryder. I'm here with Leah Murray on Inside Sources. This segment, we're going to talk about unlicensed drivers with Utah State Representative Matt McPherson. Welcome to the studio.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Good to have you on the show. Okay, so tell us a little bit about this bill. Walk us through the reasoning behind this.
Sure. So this began with a conversation with West Valley Police Department. I sit on their oversight committee, and they were having some trouble because they've been tracking for the last 3 or 4 years the number of drivers they have on the road that they interact with that when they pull them over, they have no form of ID of any kind. They don't have a driver's license. They don't typically speak English. They don't know if they can read the road signs. And there's an issue where they've been attempting to do something about this, but it's an infraction, so meaning they can give them a ticket. But when they provide them with no name that is valid, no address, it's a waste of time, really, for the officers that they've discovered. And you could talk to any department. This is a similar concern. Even with UHPs, they'll pull these individuals over, even for minor offense like a speeding or some sort of vehicle problem. Maybe their lights are out. And if one of you or I was driving on the road and we got pulled over in those situations, we'd probably get a ticket, maybe a warning. But in this situation, they let them go. There's nothing really they can do other than they can write up a ticket for John Doe who lives at 123 Happy Street that doesn't exist. And so law enforcement are finding that they just can't do anything about it. So we looked at the code and we stepped through it and we found a couple of interesting things. One, if you're driving in the state of Utah on a suspended or revoked license, that's a misdemeanor. But if you're driving and you've never had a license whatsoever, it's just an infraction. So that's the first thing this bill fixes, is that it just elevates it to the same Class B misdemeanor, something that law enforcement could, in fact, do something more than just issue a ticket if need be. Second thing that it does is that it then informs law enforcement they can then tow the vehicle. They can impound it. And this is a public safety issue, similar to if they pull over an individual with a DUI, for example. You don't just issue them a citation and then let them get back in their car and drive away under the influence. That's a safety issue. You don't allow that. So right now, law requires law enforcement to, in fact, impound that vehicle in a DUI. Well, the same thing. If you're driving on the road and you don't have a license, we don't know if you can read the road signs, if you know the rules of the road. Up to 46%, I believe, West Valley has indicated to us of their traffic interactions with citizens in West Valley are with unlicensed drivers. And that includes their, almost half. And that includes their hit and runs where they're able to track those vehicles down. It's led to an increase in these types of problems. And so when we're saying to law enforcement, if you come across a driver that has no valid form of ID and or in this situation, actually, we're just looking at the license. They don't have a valid license either from this state or any other state. We allow out-of-state drivers to drive here. If you're out of the country and you're visiting, you've got an out-of-country license, we allow that. most countries. But if you don't have any form of driver's license, then law enforcement at that point is to impound your vehicle. They're not allowed to just simply give you a citation and let you continue driving illegally, effectively down the road.
So one, I just want to say, if I had known that you could drive in Utah without a license and then speed and then not get into trouble for it, I'm going to tell you what, Representative McPherson, I would have been misbehaving
This
for
is
like
the
20
Inside
years.
Sources confessional.
Yeah, this is the Inside Sources confessional. So let me ask you a real question. I'm teasing, but a little bit. Wow, you found a serious loophole, right? Because I thought to drive, you had to have a license.
Well, and to be fair, normally you would get a ticket because you would show some form of ID, and
Right.
law enforcement would give you a ticket because it is against the law currently right now to drive without a license. The problem is if you have no ID or if you refuse to provide one, law enforcement has really no way of issuing
Like
you a
implementing
ticket.
it.
Exactly.
All right. So talk to me about, because you were talking about, you're on the West Valley Oversight Board, so you're talking about West Valley.
Yes.
And I think you said something, it was like 50% of their traffic interactions are with people who don't have a license, like an unlicensed driver. Do you think that's true across the whole state? Like, do you have evidence that, or maybe just West Valley has got problems? Like, can you talk to me about how you know that's happening everywhere?
So I've interacted with many of the large metro police departments with their chiefs. We've spoken to the LELC, it's the Law Enforcement Legislative Committee, and this issue is to varying degrees a problem, but in Salt Lake County, obviously, it's been a dramatic problem. Even Utah County has been a big problem. And then as we get out into the more Davis, Summit, and into the rurals, it becomes less of a problem, but it's still something that the officers are seeing. Lack of ID, lack of driver's license, lack of insurance being the three big ones that we're seeing dramatic upticks in those. And there's a lot of reasons why, but the impacts that my bill is looking to focus on are things like with crashes and other things going up, especially in hit and runs where there's no driver or there's no insurance, and there's no one to effectively apply the cost to. That means that our insurance rates across the whole state have been going up. And this is an issue that I've talked to the insurance agencies as well, and they're confirming that this is a big part of that as well.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, your bill was introduced during a press conference this week discussing public safety, border immigration, et cetera. So I know that some people are thinking that the bill is targeting undocumented or illegal immigrants, but it sounds like this is broader than that. Is that right?
It is, yeah. And so there's always going to be individuals that just don't have their ID on them. There's going to be individuals that refuse to provide ID for other reasons, maybe like the sovereign citizen type, or other individuals. Maybe you even have kids that are just joyriding, don't have an ID, don't have a driver's license, or they refuse to provide one. Maybe they have a warrant. These kind of issues come up with law enforcement all the time that it's not directly related to immigration, but it has been exacerbated greatly over the last 3 or 4 years because of immigration problems. And that has spiked to the point where we have to kind of find a way to tackle this. And I guess the one thing I would say in regards to immigration specifically, in this state we have what's called the driver's privilege card, which you may be familiar with. It's a bit of a controversial issue. I came into the legislature being 100% opposed to this. And I've changed my tune on this somewhat because working with law enforcement, I'm finding that there's no way for us to track these individuals that are driving on our roads today. There's just not. If they don't have an ID or any name or anything, they can do anything they want across the state as far as from on the road perspective, and the different agencies have no way of tracking that. So the last thing my bill does essentially is if you don't have any form of ID, law enforcement will fingerprint scan you right there, and they will take a 10-print fingerprint panel. So in order to get a driver's privilege card in this state, you have to provide fingerprints, 10 fingerprints. You have to pass a driver's test in English. It's the only thing we allow. And that ID card cannot be used as a form of ID anywhere in the state. In fact, it's a crime to use it as a form of ID. So from my perspective, until we've kind of solved this immigration issue, I think the driver's privilege card is absolutely necessary so we can know who's here. It's the only way we can track any of them right now.
So I've got a question for you that maybe is unfair. So I'm not trying to be, it's not a gotcha, but I'm under the understanding that Congresswoman Tenney, so Claudia Tenney out of New York State, has introduced a red light act withholding federal transportation funding from states that enact laws providing driver's licenses or identification cards to illegal immigrants in the United States. So a little bit, I think what she's doing at the federal level might speak to what you're doing. So I don't mean to, the unfairness is maybe you hadn't heard of that bill, but I was wondering.
I have.
Okay, go.
And that's something that I struggle with, because it is something that I think as a state we would like to. I'd prefer, honestly, if we just rename the cards to driver's tracking cards. Because driving on our roads is a privilege, and is a privilege we afford right now to our citizens, but now we're affording that as well to those who are not here legally. And I think that that's by necessity, and it's because we have a serious problem that we're trying to fix. I don't think it's a long-term solution. I'd love to see us in a situation in the future where we could have a better way of dealing with driving on the roads and how that looks. But right now, we require everyone who drives on the road to take a test and prove that they know the rules of the road. We require that of at least of all of our citizens. And there are tens of thousands of individuals that are driving right now on our roads that have not proven that. And that is a clear and present danger today that we have to solve today. As far as down the road, how we solve these issues, that's a problem for tomorrow.
Yeah,
got you.
Just say.
Yeah,
Got it. Well, thank you so much. We've had Representative Matt McPherson here with us to talk about his proposed bill on unlicensed drivers. And next on Inside Sources, in a world full of bitter political divides and discord, it's nice to see political leaders come together in acts of nonpartisanship. One such interaction occurred during President Carter's funeral, although I don't know if we can totally call it free of discord. So we're going to talk about more on that after the break.
Good afternoon, 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan. KSL's top national story: a powerful winter storm is dumping snow and ice on the southern U.S. In snow-covered Atlanta, some residents say they're worried about vulnerable infrastructure and their frozen water pipes.
It happens maybe every 5 to 10 years. I remember there being a big snowpocalypse when I was in high school, and another one when I was in college, but it's pretty rare. It's a big deal when there's this much snow in Atlanta.
Thousands of flights have been canceled in and out of these states in the south as this storm moves through. Taylorsville police are right now trying to find a man they say stabbed 2 other men during a mugging last night near 42nd South and 26th West. Police say the 2 victims have pulled over because of a car issue, and then the suspect approached demanding money. Police say the suspect then stabbed the 2 when they didn't hand over enough cash. Your money at this moment: an ugly day on Wall Street. The Dow tumbled nearly 700 points. Coming up, time to gas up the snowblower. KSL weather is on the way next. KSL News Time, 2:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
When might you be buzzed? When you suddenly love everything.
You guys, I love this song. I love these nachos. I love our kickball league. Ugh! I love this guy. What's your name? You know what I'd love? A ride when it's time to head out.
If you see a buzzed warning sign, call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I love your car. Is this real leather?
Ooma. What was that? That is business phone bliss with the Ooma Cloud phone system. It handles all our voice, video, and messaging needs.
You sound very...
Calm, I am. Ooma has everything I need to run my business more efficiently, like virtual receptionist, call routing, and video conferencing. And it starts at just $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Nice. Find your business comm at ooma.com/radio.
Here's something you don't want to miss. We want to let you know about Advanced Garage Door. They're a great company that Deb and I discovered.
Kyle, what sets Advanced Garage Door apart from other companies?
At Advanced Door, we're always looking for the industry-leading and highest quality garage door parts. We handle everything from repairs and installations to maintenance and emergency services. Plus, we provide a lifetime warranty on all residential doors and parts.
A lifetime warranty? That's amazing. What does it cover?
Our lifetime warranty covers labor on residential doors, parts, and services, as long as our recommendations are followed. This means our customers can enjoy peace of mind knowing their garage doors are always protected.
That's fantastic. So if someone's garage door is giving them trouble, what should they do?
Just give us a call. Our certified technicians are available 24/7 to provide prompt and reliable service. We're here to ensure your garage door is always in top shape.
For all your garage door needs, visit advanced-door.com.
Or call 801-989-DOOR. That's 801-989-3667.
Advanced Garage Door, where we sell peace of mind.
Attention home buyers, want to save hundreds on your mortgage payment or buy a bigger, nicer home? Visit SaveRight.com. This is Rod with the SaveRight team at Realty Path. SaveRight, our name says it all. SaveRight real estate clients often save $300 to $600 a month on their mortgage. Life of loan savings can be over $300,000. SaveRight clients qualify for and buy bigger, nicer homes. Interest rates are around 7%. SaveRight clients can get fixed rates in the 5s. Our affiliate lender makes it all possible. You can even start with a rate in the 2s. If you're buying or selling a home in Utah, save a ton of money. Hire the SaveRight team of realtors. Visit SaveRight.com for more information.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by My Style Checking from Mountain America Credit Union. Here's Ricky Meese.
Clear along the Wasatch Front if you're traveling I-15, 215, I-80, and the 201. No accidents, no delays. Our main secondary is also seeing a good drive at this time. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
The KSL weather forecast, this is as warm as it gets. Tomorrow morning, you're going to see 1 to 2 inches of snow on the valley floor, 6 to 12 expected in the mountains. Right now, 39 degrees. I'm Jeff Kaplan from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. This is Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
One thing that usually brings together members of the President's Club, which, Aaron, is all the current and former presidents, is a death of one of those members. You're here with me, Leah Murray, alongside Aaron Ryder. And earlier in the week, she and I narrated for you. We covered the processional.
Yep.
I want to be clear. I kept calling it a funeral, but it was wrong. That was a processional. Because the funeral actually happened yesterday, I think, Aaron, right?
Right, the official funeral for President Jimmy Carter.
That's right. So President Jimmy Carter died earlier. There was a funeral yesterday, and you would have seen, if you were watching, the former and current presidents all sitting together. So the President's Club, President Biden, former president, also current President-elect Trump, former President George W. Bush, former President Bill Clinton, former President Barack Obama. Behind them were the former vice presidents, Al Gore and Mike Pence. Everyone's spouse was there. Everyone's wife was there, except for Michelle Obama, who I understand was in Hawaii, right? So I just think getting from Hawaii back to D.C. maybe was just much. Like, I think she was there on extended vacation.
Vice President Kamala Harris was also there, we should say.
Oh, yeah, that's fair, right. But she was sitting in a different spot because she's current vice president, right? If you were watching closely, and if you're someone who's interested in how people interact, which I, as a social scientist, very much am, you might have seen some interesting interactions. And Aaron, I know you've got thoughts about it, but I would like to just start with, they were all there. So to me, just being in the space, sitting all together, is an instance of nonpartisanship. These are politicians, and by goodness, they are the best politicians in the country, because if you can get to the president, that means you are the best. Like, they have won and gotten the work. They've won the presidency. That is a very exclusive club. But they are also heads of state. They are also presidents. That title means something. We've talked about this a lot with Jimmy Carter's legacy, right? It's not just whether he was good or not as a president. It also has to do with the 50 years after he left office, right?
Yeah.
And the work that he did with Habitat for Humanity, that being a president has, outside of politics, has some cachet, right? Like, has something. And I loved that funeral in the fact that they were all sitting there, that they were not playing the role of politician. They were absolutely playing the role of President's Club member, and we are all been the most important office in this country, and we all kind of respect each other because of it. And I just wanted to land there first before we dug into what we thought we saw. And I know, Aaron, that you, in a little bit, I will never be in the President's Club, and I've never even been in a candidate's club because I've never run for office, and I probably never will. But you are brave enough to get yourself in that ring and try that. So you probably understand this. Like, I see that, but you probably understand that better than I do, right?
Yeah, this has been really interesting for me to watch because, you know, coming off of the last year and a half of my life that was invested in the Salt Lake County mayor race, and then before that, my race for U.S. House of Representatives, you know, I've seen the chatter online about how these interactions went down between different individuals in this group. And I feel like I have a little different take on it because of my experience running. So if you'll bear with me for a second here, I'd like to put maybe a different spin on what was going down here than what a lot of people in the media have been talking about. To me, this whole thing was very much a case in humanity, that even though we are talking heads of state, even though we are talking presidents and former presidents, we're also still talking about people. And that, to me, means something. So, for example, the dynamic between former President Barack Obama and President-elect Donald Trump has been talked about a lot, that they sat there and were kind of joking with each other a little bit in this moment. And, you know, when I was running, I spent a lot of time on the trail, not just with fellow Republicans, but also with other Democrats who were running for county office, for legislative offices, et cetera. And particularly in Salt Lake County, we would all go on kind of the senior center circuit tour together, where we're all there making our pitch to the individuals at those senior centers. But you really come to get to know each other through that process. And in the behind the scenes, in the aftermath, there's just something to be said about the fact that when you run for office, there aren't a lot of people who do it. And when all is said and done, when the election's over, when that moment is over, you have a real camaraderie with the people that you're running with, even if they're on the other side of the ticket from you, because you know what it's like to be in that trench together, even if you're both vying for the same seat, even if you are supporting people who are running against them, you know what that means. And a lot of us, particularly near Election Day, were commenting on how we'd sort of become this little family of candidates. And I saw that in the dynamics between Barack Obama and Donald Trump, right? The election's over. The campaign's over. They didn't run against each other. And they're there in this moment as candidates, as presidents, as people who have been, I mean, we're talking about 5 people who are alive, who understand what that office takes and who understands what that campaign takes. And I don't fault them at all for having that moment, because sometimes you need that dynamic with other people.
Yeah, I mean, what I think is interesting is how you said media were covering it, but later Trump returned to Mar-a-Lago to meet with Republican governors. He didn't tell anyone what they said, but he did talk about what it looked like. Let's listen to that sound now.
It did look very friendly, I must say. I didn't realize it. I didn't realize it, how friendly it looked. I saw it on your wonderful network just a little while ago before I came in, and I said, boy, they look like 2 people that like each other, and we probably do. We have little different philosophies, right? But we probably do. I don't know, we just got along, but I got along with just about everybody on that. We met backstage, as you know, before we went on, and I thought it was a beautiful service, but we all got along very well, which is good.
And right there, what you said, that's human.
That is.
Right? He's like, yeah, we probably do like each other, right? Like, and in that conversation, I'm not going to share with it like what it was with you all, because that was between the 2 of us. Exactly your point. These are just 2 humans. And then he goes on to say, we all got along behind closed doors, off screen, because we're all just, we got along. It was fine. And he probably acknowledges exactly what you just said. There's 5 of us living who have done this job. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's the hardest job on the planet, right? Like, this has been difficult. Do you think the same thing about Kamala Harris and kind of looking like she's icing Donald Trump? Like, is there something similar there?
I think, I have a lot of respect for Kamala Harris. I'll be totally open. I did not vote for her in this election, but I have a tremendous amount of respect, because losing is hard and losing with grace is really, really difficult. most of the people that I've met, and I've never met Kamala Harris, so I can't speak for her in this context, but most of the people I've met who've been candidates are incredibly passionate about what they're doing, and they're truly, really honestly trying to serve their communities. You put everything you have into this. You put every waking minute, every thought, everything else goes on the back burner because you're trying so hard to do something that you feel is right for your community. And when that community chooses to go another way and chooses to go some other direction, it's heartbreaking. It's devastating. And you have all of this untapped, potential ideas, things you wanted to do that now may never be realized. And it's really difficult to come to terms with that. Watching her go through this, where she had to lose the election, but continue to function as the vice president. She had to then certify the election. And now she's having to sit at this funeral knowing that there's this group behind her that she will probably never be part of. I mean, it's so hard. It is so hard to appreciate what that does to you emotionally. And so, what's interesting is I don't fault any person in this group for how they acted yesterday, because running for office is one of the hardest things that a lot of people will ever do.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. So, Aaron, I'll just bring it back to President Trump. It will be inaugurated on January 20th. Joe Biden is confirming that he will, of course, attend Trump's inauguration. I love that, too. It's a different scene than a funeral, but it's the same. We expect you all to be grown-ups. We expect you to be the most human version of yourselves in these moments where the country should be building shared identity and coming together. So I look forward to that. All right, in our final segment on today's Inside Sources, free speech, censorship, gatekeeping information, and the First Amendment. Let's have a conversation about how Meta's decision this week to end their fact-checking program affects all of those. Coming up next.
Progressive knows finding your new home was a dream come true. You wanted a Colonial with high ceilings, hardwood floors, and a peaceful neighborhood. And you found it. Now, every Saturday at 6 a.m., you get to wake to the sound of your neighbor's leaf blower. Progressive can't save you from your noisy neighbors, but we can save you money when you bundle your home and auto with us. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
Oh, could this vintage store be any cuter?
Right? And the best part? They accept Discover.
Accept Discover? In a little place like this? I don't think so, Jennifer.
Oh, yeah, huh? Discover's accepted where I like to shop. Come on, baby, get with the times.
Right, so we shouldn't get the parachute pants?
These are making a comeback. I think.
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
You might not consider yourself a tech expert, but that doesn't mean you can't protect yourself from online scammers with a little help from McAfee Total Protection. Whether it's a fake missed delivery text or an urgent bank alert, these scams can look incredibly convincing. That's where McAfee Total Protection steps in. So go ahead, manage your finances and shop online. McAfee will help keep your device's privacy and identity safer. Visit McAfee.com/online protection today to get award-winning online protection for just $39.99 your first year. That's McAfee.com/online protection. Cancel anytime. Terms apply.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? I think my battery's dead. With free battery testing and charging, we can help you get back on the road.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
So what if I need a new one? We have the right Duralast battery for you, only at AutoZone.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
And what about my old battery? We can recycle it right here at America's #1 battery destination.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Thinking about gas mileage? You know, changing your oil with a full synthetic oil like Mobil 1 can help your engine get more miles. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP extended life oil filter for only $38.99. Get started on your next job today with the parts you need when you need them at AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Your little one deserves a big welcome. From before the baby bump to baby in your arms, Common Spirit Health OBGYN physicians and certified nurse midwives are here for the labor, the love, and every moment in between. We specialize in prenatal, pregnancy, childbirth, and postpartum care to help you navigate this journey with confidence and joy. So when the big moment arrives, you can welcome baby with the warmest hello of all.
Hello, human kindness. mountain.commonspirit.org.
Bear Lake provides an experience that every family member can enjoy, whether it's snowmobiling, snowshoeing, ice fishing, or just cozying up by the fire. Bear Lake in the winter is a great escape with your family. Dive into 3 of the most beautiful cross-country and snowshoeing trails in Utah. Play on 350 miles of backcountry snowmobile trails. Or try your hand at ice fishing. Bear Lake is where memories are made and joy is shared. Visit bearlake.org and make your vacation plans today. And don't forget, the monster is coming, and it wants you and your family. And that's great news, really, because it's time for the Bear Lake Monster Winterfest, January 24th and 25th. Winterfest is all about an incredible celebration of winter and all the fun it brings. Cisco Disco, Monster Plunge, Monster 5K, the Chili Cook-Off, Trails Day, and a cardboard boat regatta. Bear Lake awaits. Visit BearLakeMonsterWinterfest.com for pre-registration times and locations.
There she is, founder and CEO. High five.
Dave can't stop celebrating with every business owner in town.
All right, Baker Man, high five.
He's sharing the excitement of big savings with the Comcast Business 5-year price lock guarantee.
Ooh, up top, Bike Shop. Yeah.
It's 5 years of gig speed internet.
Quick, high five.
5 years of advanced security.
5 years.
And 5 years of a great rate that won't change.
Yeah, law partners. Chamberlain, Messelthorpe, Dubois.
All from the company with 99.9% network reliability. Switch today and get the 5-year price lock guarantee.
5 years.
It's back, but only for a limited time.
Woo.
Powering 5 years of savings, powering possibilities. Comcast Business.
Can't forget you, voiceover guy.
Ah, thanks, Dave.
High five.
Ends 3/9/25. Guaranteed rate applies to monthly service charge for new customers on qualifying internet bundle, excluding taxes and fees. Other restrictions apply.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
This week, social media company Meta, which owns Facebook, Instagram, and Threads, announced that it was doing away with its controversial fact-checking program. Welcome back to our final segment of Inside Sources with me, Erin Ryder, and my good friend Leah Murray. We've been having a lot of fun today, and we are going to end with Meta. So the tech company has said that it's going to move to a system similar to one currently used by X, formerly known as Twitter, called Community Notes, which means that rather than having a team of employees fact-check posts, as they've been doing, the platforms are instead going to rely on users to add commentary and context to the posts. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg says the change comes following the U.S. presidential election, which he describes as a cultural tipping point. Let's listen to some of what he said in his announcement.
I started building social media to give people a voice. I gave a speech at Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression, and I still believe this today. But a lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political, but there's also a lot of legitimately bad stuff out there. Drugs, terrorism, child exploitation. These are things that we take very seriously, and I want to make sure that we handle responsibly. So we built a lot of complex systems to moderate content. But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms.
So that sounds like, I don't know, Wikipedia?
Well, here's my question for you. Here's my question. You're Mark Zuckerberg. You basically invented social media, the entire concept. You've got, well, TikTok is a larger platform now, but you have got one of the most significant, social media companies in the world. And you've gone from being 2016, we're going to fact check everything and make sure that we're only giving you accurate information, to fact checking doesn't work and the people who we were fact checking for were not being honest with us, et cetera, et cetera. So now we're going to Community Notes. I mean, you're Mark Zuckerberg. Like, where are you on this? Like, what are you thinking with all this?
I mean, I think it's a really good question. I argue all the time, and I revealed myself earlier as a, somewhat of a libertarian. So again,
A libertarian Democrat, which I
that's
just
right.
love.
I'm the one. So, but the answer basically is if freedom's more important than security, then there shouldn't be fact checking. Right? I respect someone's prerogative to post something that is false, and I also expect other people who are reading the post to do their due diligence to know whether the information is false. I am very concerned always, and here I am working at KSL, and I'm concerned about it here, that the government should never be telling people what is truth. So it should never be the case that there's any kind of fact-checking that is led out by, in our state, Governor Cox, right? And at the national level, President Biden. Like, I don't want government ever deciding what is truth. I think that goes the route of, I don't know, dictatorship, right? Like when the government
It's
is
very
telling you.
1984.
Yeah,
right?
it's very 1984. So a little bit, I guess I want to say I'm probably as distrustful as big corporations. So I'm going to tell you, I don't have more faith in Mark Zuckerberg than I do in Spencer Cox, right? So the answer is, I like the concept he's coming on to, which is why I teased about Wikipedia. So if it's more community notes, right, where people could write something that says, yeah, I think this is wrong, or this is where this was untrue, that feels more small d democratic. And by small d, I mean not partisan. Just like more knowledge should be out there for everyone. People should be able to create it and share it with each other. Government shouldn't be regulating it. Corporations shouldn't be regulating it. So I'm probably... if this is what he really means, then I'm probably here for it.
Well, so here's my question on it, and here's my take on it. One of the issues that I have with social media, and one of the things that drives me crazy about social media, is the way its algorithms work. I hate the way that it decides to feed me information. I miss the days when Facebook was just watching your friends post like random thoughts they had during the day, right? I miss that. And now I open something like Facebook, and which I use a lot for political purposes and networking purposes, and it's ad, sponsored post, sponsored post, sponsored post. And I don't even see the stuff from the people that I want to see. Instagram's slightly better, but only slightly. So my question is, are the community notes really going to make that much of a difference when all is said and done, when to me, the bigger problem, frankly, is the algorithm?
Yeah, and I landed on that too a little bit, right, Aaron, where Mark Zuckerberg was saying, we're bringing back civic content. And I have to just tell you, the political science professor in me was like, why did it ever leave? Right? We should always have civic content. He said the community asked to see less politics because it was making people stressed. So we stopped recommending these posts. But it feels like we're in an era now, and we're starting to get feedback that people want to see this content again. So everything right there is the algorithm, what you just said, right? So then, isn't that still, I mean, it's not censorship. So it's not taking information down, but it is absolutely creating a curated feed for you, which feels like corporate censorship ish.
It
like
does,
adjacent,
right? It's just it feels kind of like censorship of a different sort, because it's choosing what you see and choosing to minimize other things that it doesn't want you to see. And so I kind of look at this and I think, why am I going to trust Mark Zuckerberg now as opposed to before? Also, he's been very open about the fact that this was politically motivated, that the political wind shifted, and he points to the election as a huge influence on why they're deciding to go this route, criticizing legacy media for some of these decisions. I don't know. I mean, how much of this do you also think is Mark Zuckerberg trying to get into the good graces of Donald Trump?
Well, of course it is. I mean, it feels like, doesn't it, that he is working, whoever has the power, now he's going to serve. I don't know. And a little bit, I'll just tell you, I'm a big fan of the concept of checks and balances. Like, my favorite part of the United States Constitution is the fact that those institutions are fighting with each other. And then I would kind of argue the free market does the same thing, right? So if you're not doing good, not policy, but if you're not doing good business, there's checks and balances. The free market will adjust itself. I have to be a little bit concerned of Elon Musk posting on X, "This is cool," about what we're talking about here with Meta, because quite frankly, Meta and X should be competitors, Aaron. They should be fighting with each other. So I've got major concerns with a major corporation saying, I'm coming out with community notes that looks like our major, I keep saying major, I do apologize, the most important competitor in this market. So they're all landing on the same way of doing things. I've got concerns about that as well.
And I also wonder if some of this is Zuckerberg kind of trying to cover his trail, where he knows he's got these lawsuits that he's going to be facing. Again, we've talked about the lawsuit that Utah has been, from Utah against Meta and companies like that. I wonder if this is some of Zuckerberg trying to get ahead of that, to say, hey, look, we're a good team player. They tried very hard to cultivate that image of being a good team player. He's been pretty open about the fact in criticizing the White House and, others in putting pressure on them regarding what they displayed with COVID information and censorship around COVID. I don't know. I just think all of that's interesting, and it makes me both grateful that the market is putting, and that, states like Utah are putting pressure on these companies to be more honest and transparent, but also makes me question their motives and how does this actually change my day-to-day life?
Does it make you question enough, Aaron, that you're out? Like, will
Out of
you
social
turn?
media?
Yeah, you're going to turn off that Facebook and that X and that Instagram, and you're just done.
I don't think so. I mean, it's ubiquitous now, right? I mean, there's another element to this that we haven't really discussed, which is what is the concept of the public square when you're talking about free speech? And is social media ubiquitous enough now that it has basically become a public square? And if so, I don't know. That changes things a lot.
Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit. I want all of us getting off of social media and going back to a public square that is like a town center, right? That we actually have conversations with each other and it's not algorithm driven.
That's right. Well, thank you for joining us on the show today. I, Aaron Ryder, will be back on Monday with Taylor Morgan beginning at 1 p.m. for more Inside Sources. Next up, Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News. By the way, it's his birthday. Feel free to tell him happy birthday and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon.